Now, the comment from the commission was, well, that's not really our charter. The NRL is to run an NRL competition here in Australia. That's the National Rugby League. That's all we do. We run a competition. And I said, well, you need to change your charter because it's not going to happen worldwide unless the NRL does it. Matthew Thompson, how you doing?
Good.
Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out?
Have a look at him popping away. Oh, how good is it?
Early days, Matthew, early days. What an extraordinary round of rugby league, though. I mean, I was just looking at the results again this morning before we came on air and some of the games. I mean, started off on Thursday night, Raiders in the last play of the game, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat against the Sharks. The Sharks pretty much looked as though they had the control of it until the last seconds of play. Cowboys with the upset over the Panthers, which...
you half tipped that.
Yeah, the Rabbitohs looked gone against the Roosters. Roosters had the game in control. At 14-8, they had it in control. And South Sydney, without their playmakers and moving people around, on Latrell playing his first game back for so long, just fought their way back to the front to get going. Then the massive upset, Eels versus Dragons on the Saturday afternoon. Zach Lomax with the golden point field goal. Really disappointed in the Titans. I thought they were really poor against the Dolphins, although great to see the Dolphins returning to form. It was more like the Dolphins we've seen in the last couple of years, wasn't it? Their attacking football was back and they were running freely, which was great. Strong Broncos were a little bit too strong for an understrength West Tigers, although it was a very interesting first half of rugby league. And then on Sunday, the statement made by the Melbourne Storm, who just walked into Brookvale Oval and said, get this into you. And just gave it to Manly. There are very, very, very few teams do that at Brookvale Oval, particularly on a Sunday afternoon. But it was certainly a stamp of authority from the Melbourne Storm, wasn't it?
Well, it was 18-8 at half-time, and Manly, despite that period where they conceded 3 quick tries, clawed one back before half-time, and you thought, it's game on here. But they just blew them out of the water.
Yeah, they had to start the second half better than they started the first half. I thought the signs were there early in the first half because as soon as Melbourne got it right, they scored 3 quick tries in a row and Manly just had no answer to it. Then possession and a few penalties and 6 again sort of got Manly back into the clawed their way back into it, got a try, kicked the goal before half-time. But it was going to be how they started the second half and Melbourne just didn't give them a look in, never gave them a look in. And as I said last week, like Brookvale Oval, very few teams are going to go there and get the 2 points. So for Melbourne to go there and do it is a big leap on the rest of the competition if you can go and do it. And they did. They obviously had it in there. They'd lost the previous week as well, which Craig Bellamy doesn't like losing anything at any time. But they'd sort of been upset by the Dragons the previous week and made a statement at Brookvale Oval on Sunday. And Jahrome Hughes back into the team made a big difference. But terrific round of rugby league.
Jahrome Hughes is Melbourne's most important player, Gus.
No. He's not their most important player. I think the whole combination of that spine is their most important element, and I think he plays a key part within that. We had Jahrome Hughes on 100% footy last night, and I said to him that back in the days when Melbourne Storm had, Cameron Smith and Cooper Cronk and Billy Slater, and I used to interview those fellas for Channel 9, and one of my big questions was, who's the boss out on the field? Who actually runs the team and who's in charge of you three? And it was an interesting comment because I remember Billy Slater said to me, what Cooper wants, Cooper gets. You know, even though Cameron Smith was the captain, he was probably seen as the dominant force because he was a dummy half. Billy Slater admitted what Cooper wants, Cooper gets. So Cooper was sort of in charge. So I posed the question to Jahrome Hughes last night on 100% footy. I said, you've got your brilliant spine there with Munster and Pappenhausen and Harry Grant and yourself. I said, who's in charge? Is there one person in charge? And he sat there quietly. I said, no one's in charge, are they? He said, no. He said, we don't have a boss. We don't have a man that runs the team. We just connect with each other and work into each other. We need our forwards to lay a platform. We just play instinctively, and we've got great outside backs that can finish off anything that we create. And it's so the answer to your question is he's not the most important player in their team, but he's certainly an important part of their team, and was the big difference between, I guess, losing to the Dragons last week when he didn't play, and the way they
unrecognisable.
just tore Manly apart on the weekend. And I think a fair bit of that was attitude. The conditions were much better. It was dry. It was, we tipped St George to beat Melbourne the week before. I just thought there was a real chance of an upset in that game, given where both teams were. But and we thought Storm could go to Brookvale and win, but I never thought it would be anything like. I mean, it was 48-10, and there was still 20 minutes to go in that game.
Yeah,
it could have got really ugly, and Melbourne conceded a couple of tries late, and Manly, to their credit, hung in. But wow, that was a statement.
The other thing he said actually on 100% Footy last night, he's a great talker, Jahrome Hughes. Really enjoyed him. He said, when Harry goes, we all kind of follow, which you've often described them as a team with a hooker and three fullbacks.
That's
so
right.
I guess that points almost to Harry being the most important player. When he sees a chance, they all push up. And they come in waves, don't they? Like just with support when they get through the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of the most underrated but one of the most important parts of the game is what I call ruck recognition, and it's something that was a big part of my coaching many years ago, and I think it's a little bit undervalued today. Recognising the speed of the play the ball. Now, back in the old days where they were artificially trying to create speed in the play the ball, nearly 3 out of every 4 rucks had a little bit of speed about it, and you could get out of dummy half and do what you like. But these days, the opportunity to get that quick play the ball is probably not as prevalent, and you've got to seize upon it when it's there. If you can ever find the opposition team with one marker instead of 2 or no markers, which happens very rarely, but when it happens, you've got to be able to take advantage of it. And even if you've got the wrong player at marker or the wrong players at marker or how the ruck is unfolding and whether or not you can sense the man playing the ball is going to play it before the markers actually get set, before the line is retreated. And Melbourne Storm have got a lot of hard-working forwards that are very good at getting a quicker play the ball. It doesn't have to be lightning fast, but it's just enough, and they step to the side a little bit. They do manipulate the play the ball a little bit, which all teams do, but they know that Harry Grant doesn't need much space. He doesn't need no markers or one marker. He can go with 2 markers if the right people are at marker. If they've got 2 bigger, slower blokes that are a little bit slower off the ground at marker, Harry Grant will go where normal dummy halves won't. And them being able to read that and tap into that is he takes more steps out of dummy half than anyone. He's got great service from the ground when they want to get the ball wider. But their biggest play is ruck recognition, working out who's at marker, working out whether or not Harry is likely to go, or if there's no marker or one marker, being able to play tighter and manipulate a play through there. And they don't miss. They don't miss their moment. They don't miss the opportunity. There's a real... They're eagle-eyed about what's happening at the play of the ball because that's where you win a lot of games. You can win a lot of games. You can win a competition out of dummy half if you're good at it.
Payne Haas will be the next player to get the big 10-year contract.
No.
Geez, I'm off the money with my questions today.
No, well, I like the no better than the yes.
It's always glass half empty.
I can never understand the 10-year deal for the front rower. I don't understand 10-year deals for forwards because the game changes, the rules change, and Payne Haas is an exception to the middle forward rule, to the front rower rule, because he's got such big minutes in him. But a lot of our front rowers these days are only playing 45, 50 minutes at the most. You've got to pay someone else to play the rest of the game for them because the game is so explosive and they push themselves so hard. They're just playing 20-minute stints. But I don't believe a front rower. I don't believe that position is a 10-year contract.
Well, we can do a case study because I'm pretty sure Taumalolo is in the last year.
I think you've got a couple to go.
There's a couple to go of his 10-year deal.
Yeah.
$1 million a year.
Yeah.
If we look back retrospectively, what do you think with that deal? Who's come out on top?
I think he's gone through a peak in his career, and I think he's nowhere near where he was at the peak of his career. He's being used as interchange football a lot. He's had injury and time off. He's not influencing results. Front rowers, to my mind, don't influence the scoreboard. You've got to be a fairly rare breed to influence the scoreboard. as a front rower. I think your $1 million player is influencing results and influencing the scoreboard. That's why I maintain there are very few $1 million players in the game. I think through media pressure and through the scarcity of elite talent and the number of teams we've now got in the competition, I think we've gone overboard or clubs have gone overboard in rating players that sort of money in the salary cap. And that's why I keep saying the salary cap's never enough. Every time we get a new salary cap and the money goes up, like the last time, the salary cap's gone up a couple of $1 million, but all of a sudden 3 years later it's not enough. If we're going to be paying players $1.3 and $1.4 million.
So no doubt Taumalolo at the moment is getting paid.
Don't get me wrong. He's
a great player.
He's a great player. He's a great player.
But at the height of when he signed that $1 million a year deal, he was probably getting unders.
No, I wouldn't.
No?
I wouldn't say that. I don't know what he was on in the early years.
Well, sorry, what I mean, so from when he put pen to paper for $1 million a year for 10 years, like at the absolute sweet spot of that deal, the club was probably getting value for money.
He was important. He was important, but I would say that Jonathan Thurstons and Matty Bowens and those sort of players were influencing the scoreboard. Jason Taumalolo was probably the best middle forward in the game at that time. I don't think the best middle forward in the game in any team is your highest paid player. If he's your highest paid player, then there's going to be problems in other positions as you go along. Don't get me wrong, Payne Haas, Taumalolo, they're very special sort of players, but
well, you've paid him $1 million a year in your auction. Well, you've said a club would pay him $1 million a year.
I said a club would pay him $1 million a year, easily. But I don't think that's right. In an $11 million salary cap like we've got now, $11.5 million, I don't think front rowers command $1 million. I think you can get that job done with real good tradesmen. And my preference is to put that money hopefully into point scoring or points creating positions or game management and people that actually influence the scoreboard. That doesn't mean it wouldn't be great to have a Payne Haas or a Jason Taumalolo in your side. I'm not saying that for any, but it's for me personally, and other coaches might disagree.
Could I ask another question? What's the salary cap at the moment?
About 11,450 or something like 11,500.
The game's flying financially. Why is the salary cap only 11.5?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Well, why couldn't the salary cap be 20 million per team? Do you have a thought on that?
I don't get involved in those conversations.
But the game, because the issue is, and this is going back Super League days and stuff, isn't it? That clubs would spend themselves out of action, but that's not going to happen now.
No, but the game is making the revenue of the game has increased so significantly over the last 15, 20 years.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like the players.
And it seems to be years and years ago, I wrote a column in the Sydney Morning Herald about the games. The game brought in 192 million, which they make a lot of money. The game brought in 192 million, and it cost 198 million to run and administer the game. That was with broadcast rights to clubs and all that sort of thing, and running the administration at the house. So they were saying, I forget what year that was. I think it was about 198 million to run the game nationally, right? A few years later, with new broadcast rights deals, the game was pulling in $350 million, and it was costing $380 million to run the game. I couldn't work out how the cost of running the game doubled in that time, and it continues to do so. Now, under Peter V'landys, they actually are now investing in assets, and they're buying things, and they're trying to put squirrel money aside to have some revenue-raising resources and assets, for the NRL.
Well, there was a $300 million profit or surplus or something last year.
Yeah, and I guess that's why the RLPA argues about its cut of the deal as well. But I think players are being well paid for what they do, but the game is making extraordinarily more money or more revenue than it used to do. And we would just hope that they're spending that money wisely and judiciously going forward, and that because we don't know the future of media, we don't know the future of broadcast rights, we don't know the future of how people will pay for and get their entertainment, or that's always a bit of an unknown. We don't know how artificial intelligence is going to affect the coverage of the
artificial
game.
intelligence.
Look, it's scary.
I don't want to think about it.
It's scary. I'll show you some things that have been sent to me in the last, sort of 6 weeks, and even that will be obsolete in 3 or 4 months' time. It's frightening. It is absolutely frightening how the coverage of sport and the presentation of sport is going to change in the years coming up.
Am I going to have a job?
No?
Am I going to have a job?
The way it's explained to me is that you will not lose your job to AI. You'll lose your job to someone who uses AI better than you.
I don't even know what AI is.
Artificial intelligence.
I know, but I don't know what that means.
Yeah, it's extraordinary, and I would urge every young person to educate themselves on what the future may look like. I think it would be an asset to every individual to understand what AI is, what its potential is, and how it can help you in no matter what part of your life you're in. It doesn't matter what. It's extraordinary. It's absolutely extraordinary.
What do you use it for?
Everything, all sorts of things.
So you're a regular AI user?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, the chairman of our club, Adam Drucy, who's been chairman now for probably 18 months. He's the CEO and founder of a big data organisation called Quantium. Quantium's biggest clients are sort of like Qantas and Telstra, and the biggest names in Australia, and Woolworths, and it was a data company helping big companies use data to run their business or to make policy on whatever they're doing, and he has through his company accessed or developed. They're virtually now into AI, artificial intelligence, and having artificial intelligence help people run their businesses better. And he's actually created a version of. There are plenty of AI apps now that you can get. Got ChatGPT and all those sorts of things. He's actually modified a version of AI for the Bulldogs. Our coaches use it. Our staff use it. Our marketing and administrative team use it. We're in the embryo stage. We're not experts by any stretch of the imagination.
What do you use it for?
To give you an example, right?
Yeah.
To give you an example of AI, I came into Channel 9. I'm talking out of school here. I came into Channel 9 in February to get our headshots for the media. You do your promos and all that sort of thing. And I was sitting there, and the guy said to me, "Oh, would you happen to be in Las Vegas this year? You're going over to Las Vegas?" I said, "Yeah, I am. Why?" We wanted to do a sort of a pre-game thing on Nathan Cleary and the Panthers for the Sharks game, and how we do the intros and all that sort of thing. They do a piece, and we wanted to do a thing on Nathan Cleary, and because it's America, we'll maybe compare him to Tom Brady. Two great quarterbacks, the great quarterback from the NFL and Nathan Cleary. And I said, "Well, so what do you want to do?" He said, "Oh, well, maybe you could just voice over it. If you're in Vegas, you'd be able to voice over it, put your voice on it before the thing." I said, "Yeah, no problem." I said, "Who's going to write it?" And they said, "We'll get someone to write it. Maybe you can make some notes and send through what you think, and we'll make some notes, and then we'll get the script writer to write it, and we'll." I said, "Well, so what do you want to do?" "Oh, well, we just want to compare Nathan Cleary to Tom." So I go on to my AI app, and I said, "Claude, you're the marketing manager at Channel 9. You've got to produce a 2-minute video and voiceover script for, and what we want to do is compare the NRL's playmaker Nathan Cleary to the champion NFL quarterback Tom Brady and their similarities." And I just gave it a few.
Well, you talk like that.
I just talk like that, and it came back with and I said, "I just need a 2-minute script," and it went bling, gave it to me in 3 seconds. I read it. I said, "Could you now put that in the words of Channel 9 television commentator Phil Gould?" And it came back and just altered it.
Are you kidding?
More into my type of language. And I said, "How's that?" And they said, "What's that?" I said, "Well, there's your script." And they looked at it and said, "Who did that?" I said, "Well, just did it then." And I went and recorded it then.
We need to talk because this could save me a lot of time preparing for games.
Well, all right. Do you want me to do it on air for you?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Let me try this. I don't know if you're allowed to do this now.
Yeah. Well, I'm calling Sunday's game between Newcastle and the West Tigers, and I need an intro.
All right.
Claude. I like his name's Claude.
What's the game? What's the game?
Newcastle versus West Tigers.
Oops.
I love how this podcast goes in directions we don't expect.
Claude, I want you to act as Channel 9 television commentator Matt Thompson. You need to do a preview of the Sunday big game between Newcastle Knights and West Tigers. He wants an inspiring introduction to help promote the game and get the fans ready for the coverage that's about to come up. Something that goes for about 2 minutes. I'm happy to create an inspiring TV commentary introduction. Newcastle Knights. Dramatic music builds as aerial shots of McDonald Jones Stadium appear. Good afternoon, footy fans. Matt Thompson with you here on Channel 9, where the autumn sun beats down at the hallowed turf of the soon-to-become a battlefield. Today we witness a clash that embodies everything we love about this game. Passion, pride and the relentless pursuit of glory. The Newcastle Knights representing a city built on steel and determination, hosting the West Tigers, a club hungry to reclaim their place among the competition's elite. The Knights come into this game on the riding on the west of momentum. Their forward pack has been nothing short of dominant. There you go, it's written the script for you, so you'll be able to do your intro.
Thanks, Gus. I'll just refine it a little bit, shall I?
Yeah.
I've sort of seen how it...
Wait on.
Yeah.
Let's do this. That's great, Claude. Could you also include maybe some quotes from some famous sports people about the importance of home ground advantage and Newcastle Knights playing in front of their passionate fans and how important that is to their performance? I'm happy to enhance the script, it says.
Thanks, Claude.
It's thinking. Good afternoon, footy fans. Matt Thompson with you here from Channel 9, where the autumn sun beats down on the hallowed turf. Today we witness a clash. Yeah, let's give me some quotes here. What did he come up with? Camera pans across the fans entering the stadium. I even tell you how to use the cameras. As Knights legend Andrew Johns once said, playing at Newcastle is like having an extra man on the field. The crowd doesn't just cheer, they lift you when you've got nothing left. And he's right. Currently sitting ninth on the table, Knights know that every home game is precious opportunity to harness that energy. I caught up with Cameron Smith earlier this week, and all-time great didn't mince words. The teams that win premierships make their home ground a fortress. A few places in rugby league are as intimidating as Newcastle when the crowd finds its voice. Even West Tigers coach Benji Marshall acknowledged the challenge ahead. You can prepare for the Knights' playing style, but you can't prepare for the wall of noise that hits you in those crucial moments. It's why home ground advantage is worth its weight in gold. There you go. AI can do anything.
Give me a jumper. I'm ready to go.
You can do anything you want with AI.
What positions Claude play?
Claude can play any position. He can do it. I will show you when we get off here. I will show you some vision and some things that have been created around artificial intelligence that are extraordinary in the way there is this new AI model, right, where they can actually the live coverage of a game. You know how you've got the cameras in specific positions, all right? So these people can put cameras at all points of the field, all right? And what they can do is while the game is playing, they can create a virtual game going on alongside of it using all these cameras, which means you can watch the game from any angle you like in this virtual game. It's like a video game replicating the real game. It's extraordinary what's coming and what's going to happen.
It is the real game.
It is the real game, but in now a controllable environment where you can stop, pause, look at different options, pan the camera behind the quarterback or behind the halfback or behind the part to look at what he's looking at. So we can actually...
So as a training aid in particular?
It's a broadcasting aid. Yeah. It's a training aid. It's eventually they will be able to simulate... They'll be able to simulate things... the coaching staff will be able to simulate options before they call them in games. Not so much for our game, but certainly other sports like basketball and NFL and those sort of things. But there will eventually come a camera view that you'll be able to look up on, right, where you can actually be Nathan Cleary. You can actually see the game as Nathan Cleary will see it and feel it. You've got no idea what's coming.
I've got a vague idea.
No, you've got no idea.
Well, that's obvious.
I've got to get Claude to write your scripts now. So
I hope he's good at stats. This could save half my week. I could get extra time on the golf course.
Well, but for so many walks of life. I mean, you've got no idea what it does. It's absolutely extraordinary.
Well, what you can do with it now, one of the things that I've got experience at, it can clone your voice. So we can write a script. It voices it as you.
There are apps that can do that.
Yeah.
All right. Let me just see here.
That's what a lot of the radio.
Wait on. Claude, that's great. Could you actually rewrite it and maybe do it in the words of US President Donald Trump, as he would do it? I'll rewrite the sports script using Donald Trump. Okay. Folks, let me tell you something. This is going to be tremendous, absolutely tremendous. I'm here, this beautiful stadium, McDonald Jones Stadium, maybe the most beautiful stadium. Many people are saying it's the most beautiful. And we're about to see something really special, believe me. The Newcastle Knights, fantastic team, just fantastic people, very strong, very tough team. And they're playing the West Tigers. The Tigers, they've got some talent, tremendous talent. But the Knights, they're playing at home. And let me tell you about home advantage. It's huge. It's huge. It's massive. Now, the Knights, they're ninth right now, not first. I like teams that are first, okay? But ninth is not bad at all. They're going to it's extraordinary, isn't it? It's extraordinary. No one knows more about rugby league than I do. They've got this player, Kalen Ponga, a spectacular player, one of the best, maybe the best, who knows? The things he does on the field, nobody ever sees anything like it. And the fans here in Newcastle, they're passionate people, very passionate, blue-collar folks, tremendous folks, the best fans maybe in the world. They love their Knights, they really do. My good friend, and he's a good friend, Andrew Johns, tremendous player, one of the all-time greats. He told me, he said, Donald, playing in Newcastle is like having an extra man on the field. That's what he said. The crowd doesn't just cheer, they lift you up. They lift you up when you've got nothing left. It's true. I look at the crowd, look at them, thousands and thousands of people. They're saying we might break attendance records. The fake news won't report that. Well, we might break all attendance records. That's what you're telling me. Cameron Smith, great guy, fantastic player. Maybe the best player, who knows? Maybe the best player. He told me yesterday, he said, the teams that win premierships, they make their home a fortress. A fortress, can you believe that? Like big, beautiful wall. Newcastle, where the fans...
Oh, that's the funniest thing you've ever done.
Claude's genius.
I may have to use that. I may have to use the Donald Trump version on Sunday.
Claude is a genius. Claude
My
is
good
a
friend Andrew Johns. Could you imagine that?
Claude is a genius. When I've got it on file there. Remember when Peter V'landys was going to invite Donald Trump to Vegas, right? And he put out an invitation. Did he put it out on video? He put it out.
I don't know.
He put out an invitation, and so I put into Claude, if the NRL was trying to attract Donald Trump to come, how would you compose a 2-minute invitation on video to come out? And the way it did it was extraordinary. The way it to invite Donald Trump to the Vegas extravaganza.
It's a beautiful stadium, maybe the most beautiful.
Maybe the most beautiful. Nobody knows more about rugby league than I do. No one knows more about winning than I do. My very good friend. It's just incredible.
Great guy.
Incredible.
He's a great guy.
Wait on.
Oh.
No, I won't do one.
No,
I was going to do one in Rabbits Warren.
Do one later.
Anyway, I could do your work in 2 seconds if you like.
Very good. The NRL's agreed to consider a proposal to buy a 33% stake in the Super League on the proviso it gets complete administrative control of the struggling competition from 2028. With the Super League competition and clubs on their knees financially, I didn't realise it was that dire, to be honest. NRL bosses agreed to a secret meeting with Wigan owner Mike Danton and Warrington owner Simon Moran in Las Vegas 5 weeks ago. The NRL says it's prepared to intervene if it's approached. It's not motivated by money, rather a desire to grow the game both in England and internationally. So you've been talking about this for a while, and it looks like now officially there have been moves afoot to potentially run a 10-team competition. There's a bit of Super League about it because the clubs own their own IP, so they can basically go wherever they want. So this could be huge. I mean, this could unify the game globally and have obvious benefits. What's your initial thought on what's been mooted so far?
Yeah, so we're getting snippets of this story coming through, and I guess yesterday was the most significant sort of snippet that the league were considering a stake in the UK Super League. This goes back many, many years ago. I I actually gave a couple of presentations to the Commission back in just before COVID started, 2019, 2020. Peter V'landys asked me to come in and speak with the Commission, and one of the recommendations I made was the NRL taking over International Rugby League, that we needed a rolling 8-year calendar and that could only happen if the NRL was in charge, and that the International Rugby League Board really wasn't a constructive or dominant force in the game of rugby league. And there were some issues on the international stage that I'd sort of highlighted that sounded that out. And it was kind of like saying to the Commission, you need to take over International Rugby League. You need to own the UK Super League. You need to invest in New Zealand and take advantage of the talent pool across there. We need to invest in the Pacific Islands and help out with kids that are in the islands and make sure they're getting the same opportunity as kids who have to migrate to Australia. I'd spoken to the Prime Minister of Samoa around that time, and he was worried about the drain of kids believing they had to leave the islands to get opportunity, either go and live in New Zealand or Australia. And he wanted academy programs in his country to keep kids in the country, but still have the same opportunity as other kids, even if they didn't go on to be NRL players. But certainly sport was an important part of the fabric of their society. And anyway, that's sort of getting off the point. But it was always in the back of my mind that the NRL should be the EPL, if you like, of World Rugby League. And that's now the comment from the Commission was, well, that's not really our charter. The NRL is to run an NRL competition here in Australia. That's the National Rugby League. That's all we do. We run a competition. And I said, well, you need to change your charter because it's not going to happen worldwide unless the NRL does it. And to their credit, I think they've really tried to go down that line. Now, getting back to the UK Super League, I think I wrote or spoke on podcasts and talked a little bit about the NRL owning the UK Super League and probably wondering that the people in the UK would blow up. But got several calls from prominent people in the UK saying if ever the NRL wanted to talk about taking over the game over here, I think they would be pushing against an open door. I think it would be very well received. Probably not by the administration in the UK, but certainly by the big club owners over there. And it's very different over there. The big clubs are owned by wealthy people, and they're the clubs. I mean, there's only probably 3 or 4 strong clubs in the UK. The rest are just making up the numbers. And their broadcast rights and their broadcast value has gone down significantly in the last few years. And the game probably struggles. The top clubs are good, but the other ones really struggle. It's not the prominent sport in the UK, but it does have a very good fan base in north of England. There's rugby and there's obviously soccer, which is the major sport. But the future of the UK Super League is important for Australia because we need international competition. We need Great Britain to be strong and England to be strong. But and Peter V'landys, who's always open to new ideas and new ways to expand the game and to grow the game, has probably thought about that for a while and then probably thought, well, yeah, maybe that's not such a bad idea. Now, what communications have gone on between he and the UK Super League, or whether or not there are people in UK Super League that have picked up and run with that thought? What I do know is that over the last 12 or 18 months, there have been approaches to NRL clubs, and I'll say this because I know we've had approaches to NRL clubs, and I know they've approached other clubs to merge or join UK Super League clubs, to have like sister arrangements and over there in the UK, and maybe even invest in those clubs as part of their own brand and their own club across here. In recent times, more significantly, there's been some movement around potential ownership of the London Broncos, which has probably not been a successful organisation in the UK Super League. It was created many, many years ago. It's had many owners and many different types of, well, not so much many owners, but sort of many versions of it. It's been in and out of the top grade. But the future of broadcast rights in the UK and the value of the UK Super League would rely heavily on a very successful London franchise. They need London to be strong, and it never really is. It's not even in the top grade at the moment. So there were some people in England that were looking to purchase the London Broncos and were looking for a new NRL partner to sort of change the name and get across there. And I won't divulge confidences because all these things have sort of happened, but we can talk a little bit more freely about it now. So any number of clubs across there in the UK, there have been approaches either through third parties or directly with NRL clubs to try and create sister environments or to have NRL clubs invest in over there. I've sort of been trying to encourage the NRL to buy the UK Super League and the management across there, but they're not going to go into it and waste a heap of money over there if they can't see any benefit in it. Now, if the report is right that a 33% stake and then but all management rights of the NRL, that would be a good way to start that relationship. What I'm understanding also from the UK, and there have been significant approaches to us and other clubs here in the NRL over the off-season, and there were a number of people from the UK in Las Vegas having these meetings because it was a good opportunity with Wigan and Warrington over there and UK officials coming over and Australian officials being over there to have these sort of conversations. And obviously Peter V'landys has spoken to these people. We spoke to other people. There were a number of approaches. And there's been, you kind of feel like there was something bigger behind it. There was more to it than just what we were getting. And then there was sort of a report a few weeks ago, I think it was Brian Carney in commentary over there in one of the UK Super League games said, you don't know what's coming. On the 1st of April 1995, there was a revolution in Australia with the Super League war, and he said, I think this will be even bigger here in the UK Super League. And he kind of related as a media play that perhaps there was a media organisation that was looking to have a breakaway league. Other people are saying that the prominent owners in the UK have got their heads together. They've been a bit disillusioned with UK administration and UK management, Super League management. They're looking for the NRL to show the way and invest. And their hopes of getting better broadcast deals and better broadcast rights and more money into rugby league across there and setting up the type of pathways programs that they need for the future of the game, that there needs to be some sort of revolution across there at the moment. So I think that's where it all is. I think it's still a little bit cloak and dagger. I think it's a little bit, behind the scenes, but there have been enough rumblings over the last 18 months to think that there has been discontent. There has been an acknowledgement that something drastic has to happen and that they need to change the way the game is administered and what the look of the game across there. And there's even been reports, they want to drop the French sides, which I think that would be a bad thing as well. Is London valuable? Should they have two teams in London? Can they get London to work? London would be extremely important to any potential investment from a broadcaster because that's where the population is and that's where they need to have a market.
So it's essentially a rebuild of the English game.
Yeah, it is. It would be a rebuild of the UK Super League. Now, I watch a bit of football from the UK because we have Australian players playing over there. I like to see how they're going, and you're always looking for new young talent that might be in the UK, and I like watching their brand of football. It's different to over here, and but I'm not big on the management or the administration or how things work across there, so I'm not going to cast myself off as some sort of expert. But what I do know, the rumblings have been there for about 18 months. And now if this is right, that the NRL, and I know a number of UK Super League clubs have approached the NRL about investing in their clubs individually, which I don't think the NRL would ever do. The NRL would only invest in the game as a whole and run the game as a whole. I don't think it would invest just in individual clubs. There's been some movers and shakers across there that are positioning themselves for what they think might be financial benefit into the future, that if broadcast rights increases and the value of franchises increases, maybe now's a good ground level time to get in and invest in a new franchise or a new club. There'll be talk of mergers, there'll be talk of relegations, and which they have anyway, the criteria, or they'll go through the whole stuff that they need to go through to get what they think is a really good 10 or 12 team competition and then try to sell that to a broadcaster. And then try to marry up. And on what our game needs as a whole on the global scale is a rolling 8-year calendar of international events, domestic and international events. And it needs one body governing all that and controlling all of that. We need to govern our investment in the Pacific Islands. We need to govern our investment in New Zealand and whether or not we end up with a new franchise across there, 2 NRL teams over there. It needs the rolling 8-year international calendar, representative calendar, domestic calendar here in Australia, and then what do we do with the domestic competition here? How does it look? Is it a 20-team competition? Is it an 18-team competition? Do we do it in conferences? Do we reduce the amount of club football that we play to put more representative football on the table? Do we have regular tours, Great Britain teams and French teams coming to Australia? What's the potential for our game? And I honestly believe that the future of our game, the growth of our game, needs to come on the international scale. I think domestically we're as probably saturated as we can get. I don't think we can get more support from our game domestically than we currently have. I think it's important that we do succeed and get a franchise in Perth, for sure. And I'm hoping that that's resurrected, and this is just posturing at the moment, in negotiations. And
do you feel it's jostling at the moment? Because it seems that there's a huge gulf between what the NRL Commission is anticipating or hoping to achieve financially and what the WA government is prepared to offer.
I'm hoping that's part of the negotiation process. Like Peter V'landys is a fairly hard negotiator, and they're looking for revenue all the time. But I think the game understands the value of having a footprint over in Western Australia, and I think the West Australia government understand the importance to them as well. And what the Premier said is right. It's not a national competition unless the West Coast is involved. So,
and the time frame is important. The time zone is important.
Well, particularly if you're going to have that many games
perspective.
every week. If you're going to have 10 games a week or 9 games a week, you've got to open up time slots.
Yes.
So time zones are important. And I think it's a no-brainer. I think eventually down the track, not now, but certainly a couple of teams in New Zealand has to be on the radar down the track. What our game looks like in 30 or 40 years' time. I keep saying this. I'll be dead and gone. You'll be still here. But what our game looks like in 30 or 40 years, relies on what happens, decisions that we make now, and not wasting the opportunities that we've got at the moment. We've made giant strides in the last decade, in the last 15 years, around Pacific Island and Pacific Island coming international football. COVID got in the way of that a little bit, and it was an extra expense for the game, and the game closed down for a while. And they sort of, I remember when Tonga beat Australia back in 2019 at the end of the season, it was such a monumental thing, but we never got to celebrate it because COVID hit and everything shut down straight away.
But the game's reaping the benefit of that Pacific Island talent now.
Of course it is. Absolutely, of course it is. And this is why we're having the discussions around eligibility and origin football and international football. I think the focus for the growth of our game and the value of our game and the growth of our broadcast potential of the game comes in the international field.
And if the NRL was to take control of the English game, that is a talent development channel.
Russell Crowe came to me 8 or 10 years ago. He invited me over to his place for a cup of tea, and he wanted to talk about taking 4 English teams to Las Vegas and 4 Australian teams. This was a decade ago.
Yeah.
And having a pre-season round robin with the top 4 English teams and the top 4 Australian teams, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, we call it a World Cup. And I said, why would you call it a World Cup? He said, because the Americans will look at it and say, well, it can't be a World Cup if we're not involved. And he said that would be the leg in the door to trying to get some sort of input or that's how he would sell the game to the US. Now, we've gone to the trouble now of this Vegas experiment, which, has obviously proved successful as a promotion back here, but still trying to get, a foothold over there in the United States. But, 30, 40 years down the track, what's the game look like? Where is it played? Who is it played by? Men's and women's game, in what countries is it played? I can see games being played in Pacific Island nations. I can see it being more of an international flavour to it. I think the domestic competition should reduce in the number of weeks it takes up in the season, and we should be opening up windows to international football. I'm hugely excited about the opportunity for a kangaroo tour at the end of this year, which was something that we grew up with as kids. But international competition is so important. We need England to tour Australia. We need 3-match test series against New Zealand. We need, and
do you think the big PR push behind the kangaroo tour has something to do with the moves in the UK?
Well, I don't think it's unrelated.
Yeah.
I don't think it's unrelated. You never quite know with PVL what he's got in his back pocket, what he's thinking of. But I would hope that they've kind of got very proactive behind the scenes in what the international landscape looks like into the next decade and beyond that time. They've got to start planning now. And how our game is going to sell itself to broadcasters, and who's it going to sell itself to, and what is the future of broadcasting? What is the future of media rights, and how does the game maximise its revenue? And and where is it going to be played? I think there's great opportunity. I think we're on the doorstep of greatness. I said this 18 months ago. Our game is on the doorstep of greatness if we're proactive and we're aggressive in how we expand our sport. It all comes with investment in development. It all comes with investment in developing countries. And I think the great advance in our game will be on the international stage, not the domestic stage.
So to sort of bring this to a conclusion, you could talk all day about this sort of stuff. From a fan's perspective, sitting at home thinking, what would this look like? Well, you could potentially have concurrent NRL competitions, one here and one in the UK.
Well, no, it'll always be the UK competition, but
administered along the same pattern as what is here.
You would home straight, similar rules, similar, and
the opportunity for players to migrate between comps potentially.
Portability is very, very important. I've often said that there are great opportunities for us to send emerging players across to the UK to play in the UK Super League as part of their own development, and probably them similar. I remember having a conversation with Maurice Lindsay back when. And we talk about international competition, and international competition lost its popularity when Australia was so dominant. No one could beat us.
That's right.
We were winning games comfortably. It didn't matter who we picked. Didn't matter, and international – that's why Origin was so huge, because it was the rivalry and the competition, etc. And it overtook International Rugby League. And I kept saying we need greater competition. And UK Super League was falling off the face of the earth, and New Zealand. And that's why it was important that we invested and got the Warriors into New Zealand and started to invest there. And we got more and more Pacific Island players and New Zealand players coming and playing in the NRL and developing. And I remember saying to Maurice Lindsay at the time, the English national team was hopeless. And I said, send your best 30 kids to Australia now, your best 30 kids, your best 30 teenagers, and farm them out 2 or 3 to each NRL club and leave them here, sponsor them and leave them here for 2 years. And every 12 months, send another 30 and another 30 and another 30. I said, in a decade, you'll have a tremendous, tremendous national team and you'll be on your way. And poor old Morris, he's passed away in that time. And he said to me a decade later, he said, should have done that. I really should have got proactive about investing in our development, what have you. He saw that as a negative to the UK game, but I didn't. I saw it as more as a positive to the international game. And New Zealand was able to become strong because there were more and more players being developed in the NRL system. The NRL expanded, from New South Wales out into Queensland and then Melbourne and other areas. But it's, you've got to keep moving forward. You've got to. You've got to be proactive in the development and the expansion of the game. And I think our greatest asset over some of the sporting rivals and sporting codes we've got here in Australia is the fact that we can be an international game. We do have an international flavour to it. The AFL don't have that. We're not overly strong on the soccer front in that sport either. We can create a really special code of a football code that expands across the world.
Well, Tonga and Samoa have come on leaps and bounds. Samoa's played in a World Cup final. Tonga has beaten Australia. If you could strengthen the England team,
but they're all developed here in Australia. They're not developed.
Of course, but we've made strides in that area, and England is clearly the next frontier that needs to be reinforced.
I think the international game is so important. We should be setting aside an international window every year, and we can't keep doing it in November and December, which is only wearing out our elite players. It's.
Billy said to me on the weekend, or I overheard him talking, he didn't have an off season for 8 years.
Yeah, you can see it. It happens. If you go back to back to back, and if you're in a team that's in the finals and you're playing representative football, and then you're backing up, early in February for trial games and all stars and all that sort of thing, you never really get an off season to regenerate and to develop, and that's for some of our elite players. They never get that chance. The way the competitions are structured, we can't keep burning the candle at both ends. We can't keep starting in early February and ending in November, at the end of November. That's not enough preparation time. You're going to burn them out.
You're ready to get your auction paddle. We might have to do this as a bonus.
Is that all our subjects for today, isn't it?
Well, no,
Claude's blown you away, hasn't he?
Claude could run the UK Super League.
Do you want me to ask Claude if we should be investing in the UK Super League?
Don't worry about that yet. We've got to preview the round as well. I think there could be a few more upsets. Oh, and I've got to get your Masters tip shortly. But before that, Ask Gus, thanks to our friends at the Tab. Michael Edwards is a Bulldogs fan in London. Good on you, Michael. Round 5 features some horrendous forward passes, you may have noticed. Currently, the spotlight is on high tackles. What do we do about forward passes? Should the bunker get involved? I know the answer to that question. If League could fix this, I won't have sleepless nights. Please help.
Yeah.
What about the forward passes? They're dead set playing gridiron, some of them.
Some of them are terrible, particularly out of dummy half, but some of the forward. And then they'll pull up the ones that aren't forward passes because of try score.
They do.
The longer passes to the winger, a lot of those are not forward, but they'll call them forward because a try is going to be scored. But we just disregard the other 12 forward passes that have led up to it, out of dummy half, the forward passes. And I wonder what are the linesmen doing? That surely is their responsibility.
We need Claude on the sideline.
About forward passes.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Give him a flag.
It's a great question. What are we going to do about forward passes? Well, what are the linesmen doing? And then they'll call the one that's not forward because it looks like being a try.
Latrell's wasn't forward though. People have been saying Latrell's was forward.
Went backwards out of the hands.
Yeah. And this was nowhere near a forward pass, but how good was Jahrome Hughes' pass, the brookie?
Brilliant.
Float, like the angle, he got it to float.
Brilliant. But I've seen so many of them pulled up.
Yeah. It's out of the hand. It's got to go back out of the hand.
Backwards out of the hand. It goes forward as far as it likes.
Although there's not too many going backwards out of the hand at the moment.
There's been some horrendous ones, like forward passes.
He hasn't got an answer for you, Michael, but the bunker is not the answer.
No, the answer is the linesman.
The line, okay.
The answer is the linesman. The linesmen have got to take a greater responsibility of that and stop worrying about other aspects of the game. Let the referee control that.
After the ruthless sacking of John Morris in 2021, asks Brodie Elliott.
Crikey, that can hold a grudge.
I know, to get Craig Fitzgibbon to win a premiership, the Sharks are no better than they were 4 years ago. How much pressure is Fitzy under?
None. I don't agree with the summation. I think the Sharks are a good side. I think they're a good side. I think they've developed well. It's a competitive club. That's not easy to maintain your position at the top of the table as they have done for this little window, and I still think there's some improvement in them. And whilst the early season results, we always say, are always up and down. In the first 6 weeks, everyone wins one, everyone loses one. There's plenty of upsets, and the lesser teams are at full strength, and that's probably their best part of the season for a lot of teams at that time. And players change clubs and new combinations. Sharks are a contender in this competition. If they're fit and well and they get their football right at the back end of the year, and there's injuries for other sides, they're a contender. And I think Craig Fitzgibbon is a great coach. I think he's done wonders with the club.
They've got to get one bloke firing.
They've got to get a few firing.
If you were coaching him, Nico, how would you get his confidence back?
Let's see.
He looks completely downtrodden.
That's like the 11 herbs and spices in Kentucky Fried Chicken, isn't it?
Right.
That's coaching.
That's Ask Gus. Thanks to the Tab. The NRL season is here. We're nearly 6 weeks in. It's the best time in sport. Tab has the best app in sport as well. Tab, we're on.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
Braden Williami was announced as the Bulldogs NRLW head coach earlier this week.
Yes.
You probably can because you probably looked over his resume, but can you name the 4 clubs he played for in the NRL? A break for Gus. And we'll come back and, it's Masters Week. One of the great weeks.
Fans always ask, Lozza, what was the best era of league? And I tell them, nothing beats the line-breaking, flick-passing, goose-stepping, bankers flying, turbo try-scoring, origin drought-breaking, simply the best era of footy we're in right now. And with more market stats and insights, it's easy to enjoy the best era in footy with the best app in footy.
Tab. We're on.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.
When I think Braden Williami, I think journeyman.
Yeah, he had a few clubs. He had a few NRL clubs. We're excited to have him as our new NRLW coach. He was actually recommended to me by the Warriors. He's been working over at the Warriors since he retired from playing, and they rated him extremely highly. He's in their pathways program over there for the men, and but for family reasons, it was important that they returned home to Sydney. They wanted to come home, and Cameron George from the Warriors rang me up because obviously I'm good friends with the Warriors, and said, "Look, if you hear of any jobs or you can find any jobs," he said, we recommend him highly. He said he's a great young man. We're sorry to lose him. We could see him really graduating through to the highest levels here, but he's got to get home to Sydney for family reasons. And if you could think of something that you could do with him, that or you can hear of anything over there, you might be able to recommend it. I'd always liked him as a player. I always thought he had plenty of talent as a player. He's got to spun his wheels throughout his career the whole time there, and he did move around a little bit, but. I think his future will be in coaching. He started in sort of welfare and looking after players, and he's been in assistant roles across there and in their pathways system. And he's also of Fiji heritage, and obviously we have the Kick-Our Academy over in Fiji, and we've got an association with the Fiji Silktails, which we're trying to help them with their development, and he was very passionate about being involved with that as well. So I think he'll have several roles with the Bulldogs going forward, but the way to get him into the club was through the NRLW program, and he arrives on Monday, and we can't wait to get started with him. So
Played 9 tests for Fiji.
He did, yeah.
So he's had 4 NRL clubs and an English Super League club. I'll do the 4 NRL clubs, and I'll give you a bonus point if you get the English Super League club.
Okay. I think he started at Parramatta.
He did.
I know he had some time at Manly.
Tick.
And I know he finished his career at the Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
In between that, I've got visions of seeing him in a St George jersey.
He's too good. You are too good.
St George jersey?
You never get any of these wrong. So who do you play for in the UK Super League?
Catalan.
He's got his resume on his phone. You've done a good job of pretending you didn't know. Well done. US Masters Week. So, these are the 5 players that I've had a little investment on, just for fun. Now, for the record, I think Scotty Scheffler will win.
Right.
Ludwig Arbert, who could very well win. What a talent.
I think one day he'll be the world's best golfer.
Well, yeah. I've had something on Russell Henley.
Yep.
I've had something on Minwoo Lee after his performance a couple of weeks ago. Now, he's got the talent to come out there and blow him away, but It's different gravy at the Masters. Now, Wyndham Clark is in the top 10 in the world, Gus, and he's over 100 to 1.
Good player.
And Denny McCarthy is regarded as one of the better putters on the US PGA Tour.
Yeah.
So they're my 5 little flutters. I think Arbert can win, but I'm tipping Scheffler.
I think the Masters is one of those golf tournaments where experience counts. You very rarely see rookies or unknowns kind of come to the top. It's one where veterans perform well, and the best players of the day always perform well. Look, I think probably the top 3 or 4 in betting are the ones to beat. For me, I'm a Rory McIlroy fan. I think he's the best golfer in the world, but so frustrated with him that even though he wins a lot, he doesn't win. I don't think he wins as many as he's capable of, and I'd love to see him win a Masters. But the problem with Rory is something just seems to go wrong in these big events, and
he hasn't ever really got close in the Masters, have you? Let me have a look.
And it's strange because it's a course that should suit him. Like you've got to be able to hit the ball high at Augusta to stop the ball on the greens in the position that you want it. But he's, I think his putting lets him down on those slopey greens a little bit sometimes. I'm a Colin Morikawa fan.
He's a gun.
Yeah, and Scheffler, of course. I mean, you watch Scheffler hit the ball on a driving range, you'd think, how's this bloke even play? I mean, he's all over the place. His feet are moving. He's all over the place. But I think they're the ones to beat.
Rory at the Masters. Oh, second 2022. Oh, tied 5th. So it's not. He's had a 4th. He's had a couple of tied 5ths. He's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 top 10s at the Masters. So it's not an abominable record like many people would make you think. He just hasn't quite got there.
But you would think a player of his stature to have 6 top 10s and not win it,
Yes.
That's what I'm getting at. He
Yes.
just doesn't nail it at the right time. And you're only going to have so many opportunities in your career, but he's never hit the ball further. He's never hit the ball straighter than what he's doing it at the moment.
He looks like there's a sense of timing there. This might be.
He doesn't bear down with his putting sometimes. Sometimes, the number of times he shaves the hole and just misses putts is incredible. And on those slopey greens, particularly at the back nine on Sunday, where you've got to make eagles and you've got to make birdies coming home and you've got to shoot 32 on the back nine on Sunday to win the tournament. He just never seems to be able to nail it. He could shoot 28 on the back nine if he gets it right. Like, he's just one of them blokes that could absolutely blow it away. So I'm cheering for Rory, but I wouldn't back him with Paul Gallen's money.
Oh, gee, that's saying something.
I couldn't back him because he's
pretty short on the tab. You can go there and have a look at the markets.
Well, I don't think he's good value.
No.
Scheffler's, Scheffler will be in the finish for sure. Morikawa has a good 4 days. He can do it.
Got a bolter? You got someone at odds?
Corey Connors,
Canadian.
yeah, he's always he's not far around the top 20 every time he plays there, and he always has one bad round. Like, he can have 3 good ones, but then one sort of poorer one, and he's consistent, and he's had a few goes around the course now. I think it's a course that takes time to learn over a period of time. And the other fella you're talking about, the European fellow, Ludwig, he's a pretty special talent.
Oh, what a swing.
Ludwig could shoot 20 under and just blow everyone away. He's that good.
He's a pretty good price too on that basis. Head to the tab, have a look at the markets. All right, round 6 preview, thanks to Tab. Odds correctors of 6:30 a.m. Wednesday morning. We got Thursday and Friday footy coming to you from Queensland.
Yep.
Salty's going to be busy. She's got a couple of games back-to-back. And starting with Dolphins at $2.90, up against the Panthers at $1.42, on air from 7:30 on Thursday night. If you give me one moment, I'm going to go to my little NRL thing here and give you all the latest team news, because we know Dylan Edwards returns from that groin injury for Penrith, which is all important. Blaze Talangi finally gets a chance to start at 5'8". Scott Sorensen is back from concussion, but they are missing Mitch Kenny. So Luke Summerton comes in there to play at hooker. And Tom, they beat. They won last week against the Titans without Tom Gilbert.
Yep.
He comes back into the lineup. Big price, Dolphin.
Big return to form for the Dolphin last week, although I thought the Titans were extremely disappointing, and they'll be disappointed in their performance. I think that'll be a great confidence booster to the Dolphins, now back at home, and playing a Penrith team that's searching for a little bit of confidence, although Dylan Edwards now comes back into the lineup. While ever you've got Edwards, Cleary and Asai Yeo steering your team around the park, you're in good shape. Blaze Talangi, they've bitten the bullet. This is the off-season signing. We all thought we'd be playing 6. They haven't done it for the first 5 weeks of football. Are they doing it because now, we need to throw him in because that's our last resort? Or, yes, he is ready. We've seen enough to know that he can come and do the job.
Well, Jack Cole's out with a head knock.
Yeah. So, anyway, Blaze is in, and we wish him well. There are still some issues around the Panthers that need to be fixed. It's not just the fact of personnel. It's some of their principles and some of their standards have sort of fallen off a little bit. And the Dolphins are a team that can hurt you. I'm just looking at this though, and I'm thinking if Panthers get it right, they will win. So I'm tipping Panther to bounce back.
Okay. 4 losses in a row for Panther. Unprecedented. Hasn't happened since 2019, in fact. Early game Friday, down in Wollongong, Wynn Stadium. Dragons and Titans, both last start losers, hoping to bounce back. Shane Flanagan has named the same 17 that lost in Golden Point to Parramatta. For the Gold Coast, winger Jojo Fafita comes back, so Philip Sami goes to the centres, Bo Fermor back to the back row where he's more suited. Fafita to the bench. Sam Verrills is also back. Chris Randall goes to lock. Oh, but Tino's suspended, which means Moeaki Fotuaika will captain the Gold Coast Titans. Oh, no, Tino.
I think this is a little bit of a big moment for the Dragons. If you look at their form this year, they led South Sydney, a very weakened South Sydney. South Sydney were very much under strength, and they led them by 12 points at home and got beaten with a field goal. They led Parramatta on the weekend, who hadn't won a game, by 12 points a couple of times in the game and got beaten by a field goal. When they lose, they're not losing by much. And in between that, they go and beat the Melbourne Storm. So they're capable of winning against anyone, and they're seemingly capable of losing against anyone just at the moment. They're now at home playing against a team that's struggling for form in the Titans, and they need to bear down and get this done. There's just sometimes a game comes along that you have to win. You have to do whatever it takes to get it done. And Dragons, I think, are in that. This is that game. They can't afford to be dropping this game to the Titans at home. The Titans, on the other hand, you know my opinion of them. I think that they're potentially a top 8 side, but they're just not doing top 8 things for the 80 minutes of football each and every week. They have some great moments and they have some horrible moments. They must be a cause of frustration to Des Hasler. If Des can't get them right, no one can. But there is just too much inconsistency in what they do. Now, my thought on the Titans is they could blow them away. They could blow anyone away at any day. But whether or not they're in that mindset, I don't know. I think this is such an important game for the Dragons, given that loss to Parramatta last week, given the way they lost to South Sydney a couple of weeks ago, showed their potential in beating Melbourne Storm in between those sort of results. I think this is one the Dragons need to bear down on and get right. So I think there'll be a fair, they'll put a fair priority in these 2 points. And I just don't know if the Titans are in the mindset to travel down there and do it. I mean, if the Titans win, I won't be surprised, but so far as I wouldn't be having a bet in this game.
$1.58, $2.40 Dragons favourites.
Yeah, well, I can understand that. They should win, I suppose. Dragon.
Friday night footy from Suncorp, Broncos versus Roosters. Piakura suspended, Jaden Hunt to the back row, Martin Tapau to the bench. Chad Townsend's been axed for Hugo Savala. For the Roosters, Lindsay Collins is out with a knee, so Butcher to prop. Radley comes back. How good did Victor Radley speak last night? 100% footy.
Yeah, lovely young man.
So he comes back into that number 13 jumper, and Mark Nwanganitawase has been named 18th man, but if he recovers from a calf, he could come into the lineup there somewhere. But the betting odds very one way. Broncos $1.18, Roosters $4.80 on the tab.
Yeah, Broncos, when they're good, they're very, very good. Roosters are searching for answers at the moment. They weren't terrible against South Sydney, but I thought that was a game they should have nailed. South Sydney with their injury situation. Roosters did get to the front 14-8 and looked as though they had the game well within their control, but then just dropped off with a couple of poor moments in defence. I didn't think they were aggressive enough in attack. I thought that they were quite conservative against a South Sydney team that was struggling for combination and struggling for troops, and they only had one player on the bench there at one stage, and the team had been shuffled around. They had backs playing, forwards playing in the backs. It was a game that Roosters should have nailed, and they didn't do it. Now, we know what they're capable of. They could go up to Brisbane and put in a stellar performance, and Brisbane can stub their toe at times, but it just looks to me as though the Broncos have got far too many points in them for the Roosters at this stage, and I would think the Broncos will win at home.
Okay, Bronco for Gus, 3 o'clock Saturday. Now we've got the doubleheader over in Perth at Optus Stadium. That's timely, given the jostling that's been happening.
They're playing in Perth.
Yes, they are. This is interesting, this game, isn't it? Betting odds with the tab, Sharks $1.53, Manly $2.50. Teague Wilton and Sifa Talakai both come back. For Manly, however, Josh Aloiai returns. He had a slight shoulder problem. Corey Waddell's been suspended for a couple of weeks, so he's unavailable. They may get Lachlan Croker back. He's had a knee injury. He's been named on the extended bench, but we'll see whether he comes in.
Yeah, really interesting game. The Sharks have taken their home game to Perth. I think they would love to be playing this at Shark Park at the Bermuda Triangle. Sea Eagles, well, how do we explain what happened last week? They did lose on the road to Warriors. They had some big wins at home. They did lose on the road to the Warriors. I thought they were poor in the second half, or first and second half. They were pretty poor last week against the Storm, but it was the Storm. They'll be looking for a bounce-back factor, but still no Tom Trbojevic. And I think probably the more how can I say, settled and more consistent sort of performer is the Sharks. I'm going to tip Shark to win that one.
All right, second of the double header is a good game of footy. I actually cannot believe South's are $2.10 outsiders against the Cowboys at $1.74. Oh, Latrell's playing 5'8". How exciting. He's such a cunt. He hasn't played a game, goes in, pretty much plays halfback, wins the game for them.
It was arrogant.
He's so good.
It looked like a 14-year-old playing in the under-9s.
Yeah.
Because he wandered around and just picked his moment. He didn't overexert himself. What wasn't played out, that before he set up the match-winning try, he did try to kick 5 40-20s.
And he kicked 2 out the full.
Kicked 2 out on the full. Like he's all or nothing.
Yeah, but it's great.
And he was just waiting around for tackle 5 to have another shot at a 40-20 because that was going to be the big moment. And then he sort of wandered in and he sort of points this way and points that way, and then he puts his hands on his hips and he stands back and has a bit of a look, and then he gets the ball on tackle 5 and you're thinking, well, what's he going to do here? And zinger. He just shots this ball that just how tall is Dominic Young? He's only 6'5". He's reached up with his hands like that. He's just got the ball over his fingertips and dipped and landed in the chest of his winger, needle eye opening to go over and score the match winning try. Like that's freakish. Normal people don't do that.
Could he be an elite 5'8"?
Well, he could be an elite anything.
Yes.
I think whatever he put his mind to, I think he could open the batting. I think he's an elite anything. I think he could be an elite golfer. I think he could be an elite.
He'd pull driver on most holes.
Yeah, he wouldn't back off.
No. I'd love the thought of him playing at 5'8". I just did with more ball and.
Well, you're thinking you're going to see more of him, and you're going to see more variety in his game. And what he'll do is he'll get there and play like a 5'8". He could do anything. He could honestly do anything, but he'll do it at his own pace and he'll do it in his own time. And the Cowboys.
By the way, they get Ewan Aiken back. He's going to go into the centre. So they've obviously got a few missing, but they've paired up Latrell with Jaden Sullivan in the halves.
Yeah, well, Jaden looks much fitter this year, and he's gone good. He showed his worth the other day. Jai Gray's leading the Dally M's from here to Yin Yang. He's flying. Alex Johnson's back, so they're starting to get some experience back in the side. Their forward pack has been very, very hard working.
I love the look of their team this week.
It's a nice bench. Good side. And to consider that, they've still got Campbell Graham to come back. They've still got Cody Walker to come back.
Jamie Humphries
to come back. I'm going to tip the old coach to nut out a win again. I think they'll just keep going.
I reckon they're the locks of the weekend. Gee, we're going far and wide with the comp this week. We're in Darwin as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's
no game in Sydney this weekend.
Well, if you don't count Newcastle to Sydney, which it isn't.
Well, it's not. It's Newcastle. There's no rugby league game in Sydney this weekend. None. 0 zip.
It's a national competition, Gus.
Junior rep finals are at Leichhardt Oval if you want to go and get your fix of rugby league.
Where's that? What day?
Men's and women's. Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
Men's and women's.
Will there be a barbecue?
There's always a steak sandwich and a hot dog there. Leichhardt.
Zach Lomax on the wing. Sean Russell in the centres, officially.
Mm-hmm.
Geez, young Riley Smith's going good. So maintains that starting hooking role. Well, in fact, he's been named to start. That's right. So Hopgood played hooker at the start of the game last week, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. They got Simonson and Madison on the extended bench, and Raiders no change.
Yep. Conditions will be hot and steamy up there. I'm tipping Raider.
Raider to win. Wasn't very hot and steamy last Thursday in Canberra. Sunday, 2 p.m. This game at Amy Park. Well, I can't remember them having too many Sunday afternoon games.
No.
Craig Bellamy has the same 17, unsurprisingly. Will Warbrick and Nelson remain sidelined. And one change to the Warriors team, that down the West Tigers, Rocco Berry back from a hamstring, Adam Pompey to the wing.
Yep. I heard Andrew Johns on the commentary the other day. He said, the Warriors are a bit of a bogey team for the Storm. The Storm have beaten them their last 16 times or something or other. But we always think like that.
We do, yeah.
They've been very close to upsetting them a few times.
Because it goes back to that final we talked about.
Yeah.
When Michael
many years
scored
ago.
In 2008.
Yeah, it's a long, long time ago now.
It was a generation ago.
But we always kind of feel, well, the Warriors are a bit of a bogey team for the Storm when Storm just beat them every time. And I think they'll beat them again this week.
$1.17 against $5 Melbourne against the Warriors. And I should have told you that Parramatta are $2.55 and the Raiders are $1.52. And Sunday footy from McDonald Jones Stadium in Newcastle. Beautiful stadium. Very, very beautiful. Great player, Kalen Ponga. Maybe the best.
Maybe the best. My good friend, Andrew Johns. My good friend.
My great friend, Cameron Smith. Great guy.
No one knows rugby league like me. Could be the best. Could be the biggest. I wish I could do his voice.
Oh, that's so funny. Knights $1.62. They got some troops out against the Tigers at $2.30. So Jack Cogger's gone, James Schiller's gone, Jacob Sathidi's gone, Jack Hetherington's gone, Adam Elliott's gone. Crosland's playing halfback, Brayley's into hooker, Kyle McCarthy's onto the wing, Brody Jones is playing in the front row, Kai Pearce-Paul comes back from suspension in the back row, Matt Arthur makes his debut off the bench, and Tyrone Thompson joins his brother Leo. Whew. For the West Tigers, it's all good news.
Kai Pearce-Paul's back.
I mentioned that. Jahrome Luai's in. Jarrell Skelton's in. Samuela Fainu's in.
Yes. Without looking at the teams, I tipped Knight on TV last night, 100% footy. I thought they were very gutsy the other night, Sunday night down in Sydney. Lost a few players to injury, but they defended grimly. It's a shake-up to their team with positional changes. Now looking at the two teams, I think the West Tigers look more settled. The home ground advantage to the Knights, Sunday afternoon football. Impossible to pick.
On the bench, Arthur, very few games. Tyrone Thompson, debut. Jermaine McEwen's played 2 games.
Yeah, Matty Croker's a good player. Jack Birdfiner. So, now that I've seen the teams and I can have a look at it in the cold light of day, I'm thinking Tiger. I'm thinking Tiger. So I'll go back to the full round. I'm tipping Panther to beat Dolphin, Dragon to beat Titan, Bronco to beat Rooster, Shark to beat Seagull, Rabbit to beat Cowboy, Raider to beat Eel, Storm to beat Warrior, Tiger to beat Knight.
Thanks, Gus. Great podcast. Maybe the best podcast.
We'll bring Claude on full time.
We just need to get him a voice. He can just impersonate
They
us.
They can do their own voices. Yeah.
Thanks, Gus. Thanks, Claude. That's 6 tackles with Gus for another week. Thanks to Tab. Back with more next week. Enjoy the footy over the weekend.